Caitlin Clark in Iowa. Reese, with 15 points and 10 rebounds, set the NCAA single-season record for her 34th double-double of the year. She was named the tournament's most outstanding player, and she's letting everyone know she has a personality and won't apologize for it.
All year, I was critiqued about who I was. Nobody, the narrative, I don't fit the narrative. I don't fit in the box that y'all want me to be in. I'm too hood, I'm too ghetto. Y'all told me that all year. But when other people do it, y'all don't say nothing. So this was for the girls that look like me, that's gonna speak up on what they believe in. It's unapologetically you. And that's what I did it for tonight. This was for it was bigger than me tonight. It was bigger than me. Twitter is gonna go in a rage every time. And I mean, I'm happy. I feel like I've helped grow women's basketball this year. Twitter can say what they want to say. I love Twitter, and I love reading those comments. I have all the screenshots of what everybody has said about me all season. And now what are you going to say now?
And she won. You can't say anything. O's now open up their road series at Texas. That's tonight when Sports Unlimited continues.
Morgan, thank you. Coming up on Fox 45 News at 5 o'clock, police identify a suspect, the all-out manhunt, and what police are saying about a quadruple shooting and murder this weekend. And all new at 6 o'clock, a Baltimore County police officer pleads guilty to a bribery and kickback scheme. How he's accused of helping people illegally get their hands on hard-to-get Maryland firearms licenses.
This is one of the most disgusting things that I've seen in my time in elected office.
4 shot, 3 dead in a rampage Saturday night. Tonight, the all-out manhunt and connection police say the suspect has with the victims. A Baltimore County police officer pleads guilty in a federal bribery case. How he's accused of helping people illegally obtain hard-to-get firearm permits. And a Maryland man leading America's mission to return to the moon. Meet the Artemis commander coming up.
Live from WBFF in Baltimore, this is Fox 45 News at 6.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Mary Bubala. Fox 45 News at 6 starts right now with the exclusive Fox Track, your Baltimore Minute.
Surveillance video from the Arbutus Walmart along Washington Boulevard capturing the moment a Baltimore County police officer takes down Andre Holness.
What happened to me shouldn't have happened to a dog.
The surveillance video shows Officer Sell following Holness to his car. The pair appear to have an exchange of words before Officer Sell tackles Holness to the ground. charging him with second-degree assault on a law enforcement officer, trespassing, and resisting arrest. All charges the Baltimore County State's Attorney's Office later dropped due to insufficient evidence.
A family shattered by violence and a suspect on the run. 31-year-old Brittany Murray is clinging to life at an area hospital after she, her father, Charles Murray, grandmother, Darlene Briscoe, and friend, Gerard Smith, were shot outside of her home here in Northeast Baltimore Saturday. The father, grandmother, and Smith killed.
This is one of the most disgusting things that I've seen in my time in elected office.
Well, right now at 6, the search is on for this man, Marvell Worsley. Police say he is wanted for the triple murder Saturday night. His picture now plastered everywhere, including on FOX45.com. Thank you for staying with us. I'm Mary Bubala. That shooting rampage also left a 4th person wounded. In all, across the city this weekend, separate shooting incidents resulted in 10 gun violence victims. And we have team coverage with Mackenzie Frost monitoring legislation intended to reduce crime. But first, Alexa Ashwell and the manhunt in the murders on Woodring Avenue.
As family and friends gather for a vigil to honor these victims, the Baltimore Police Department searching for this suspect who they identify as Marvell Worsley. Online records show he is the next-door neighbor of one of these victims, the daughter. According to police, this shooting all stemmed from a dispute over what remains under investigation.
A family shattered by violence and a suspect on the run.
She's still hanging on. We're praying. We're praying.
Over the phone, relatives confirming 31-year-old Brittany Murray is clinging to life at an area hospital after she, her father, Charles Murray, grandmother, Darlene Briscoe, and friend, Gerard Smith, were shot outside of her home here in Northeast Baltimore Saturday. The father, grandmother, and Smith killed.
I just lost it. I lost it. I haven't been able to sleep. I haven't been able to eat.
Investigators just releasing the mugshot of the suspect they say they're looking for, identifying him as Marvell Antonio Worsley, and saying a dispute led up to the shooting. Exactly what it was over, unclear.
There was some type of dispute between individuals who knew each other. Suspect opened fire and then fled the area.
At the scene, the mayor calling the triple homicide one of the most disgusting things he's seen while in office.
This was a cowardly act carried out by a coward. This is one of the most disgusting things that I've seen in my time in elected office. We pray for the family.
The mayor not going into detail, but we now know the victims a family.
It's sad that when it touches home, that's when you really sit and analyze that it's time for the foolishness to stop. It's time for the foolishness to stop.
The relative affectionately calling her cousin Charles Chucky.
Chucky's more like a brother. We grew up together.
Saying he so loved his daughter Brittany and his mother Darlene.
She was a good aunt. She was a good mother. She cared and loved her children. As you see, she always said she would die for her kids, and that's what she did. She died with her kid.
A family ripped at the seams.
Take a good look. Marvell Worsley, investigators say, should be considered armed and dangerous, and they warn to not approach him if you do see him. Anyone with any information regarding his whereabouts is asked to call 911 or contact Baltimore Police. Alexa Ashwell, Fox 45 News.
Well, tonight, as city leaders tout an overall drop in homicides, the rate based on population remains at record levels. At the end of the 1990s, one of the deadliest periods in the city, there were 46 murders per 100,000 residents. With population declines and homicides still in the 300s, the rate is actually more than 50 people per 100,000. And amid the historic levels of violence, there are concerns the legislative session could end before bills aimed at reducing violent crime are passed. Fox 45's Mackenzie Frost has been demanding answers since the start of the session.
Some plans have seen progress, like the scholarship program offered to low-income families. But when it comes to crime-fighting strategies, some bills are getting caught up in the partisan divide. When Boys Collegiate was at risk of losing its charter in Baltimore, Fox 45 News demanded answers from city leaders. And when it came for a decision, the school was allowed to keep its doors open and students in the classroom. In Annapolis, students making their case to lawmakers to keep the Boost program intact.
Tell them I want to tell everybody needs an opportunity. Now or never.
I'm so blessed and glad that I have a Boost scholarship.
After weeks of our questioning of leadership about the governor's proposed cut, are you open to codifying Boost?
I think we'll see. It's going to be up to the Budget Committee and the Senate overall.
So at this point, from your perspective, the legislation that was heard earlier today is essentially dead.
Well, it's going to go to subcommittee.
Are you confident that the Boost funding language will stay?
I feel confident it's very important to the Senate.
A deal was made, keeping the scholarships available to students and many participants coming from Baltimore City, where there's another crisis, stealing lives almost every day. Neighbors demanding action from their elected representatives.
Do your jobs. Honestly, do your jobs.
It's nothing stopping you from being the next person killed in Baltimore City.
Hold these people accountable for their crimes and their violence.
Those repeat offenders have been the focus of the Violent Firearms Offender Act, a bill backed by former Governor Larry Hogan for years and this year introduced again by Republicans, looking to crack down on repeat gun offenders by implementing tougher penalties. The plan failing to gain traction in either chamber once again. On the heels of a quadruple shooting this weekend, leaving 3 dead, Fox 45 News sending Baltimore City Senate and House delegation a few questions about anti-crime legislation, asking, is there any hope for the Violent Firearms Offender Act to move this session? If not, why won't you support legislation targeting these repeat violent offenders? What do you say to families who are asking lawmakers to act swiftly to curb violence impacting their communities? Senator Antonio Hayes saying during a Zoom interview, longer sentences doesn't deter crime.
I haven't supported it.
Why don't you support it?
Because I believe that, investing in education is a more longer term strategy. I am prayerfully hopeful that our new state's attorney will bring the expertise to the courtroom to prosecute a lot of these cases.
And the rest of the delegation not answering our questions. Lawmakers often say public safety is their top priority. Even the governor makes it a point to talk about the importance of safe communities. With one full week left in session, Governor Moore touting climate change efforts on Monday. And when asked last week about his efforts to get lawmakers to crack down on crime, the governor hesitant to push harder. But tackling illegal guns and repeat offenders, there are bills in the legislature to do that, but we haven't seen you come out and say, we need to get this done.
Yeah, well, you have seen us working with the legislature, and at the same time, I want to see bills make it to my desk that are going to focus on keeping our communities safe.
New City State's Attorney Ivan Bates has been pleading for lawmakers to pass his bill to level the playing field for misdemeanor gun offenses, raising the maximum penalty from 3 years to 5 for offenders 21 and older. Despite relentlessly demanding answers from lawmakers about the future of the bill, the plan has faced hurdles, questions, and is now stalled. Hayes remains optimistic, though he says he's not sure when the plan will pass.
I've seen strain of things happen as an incoming state's attorney that we need to give him all of the tools in the toolbox that he says that he needs in order to get the job done.
There's been a history of such bills being defeated.
Towson University rhetoric professor Richard Vatz says lawmakers could vote on these plans.
They imply they're appalled by Baltimore as being a war zone, but they typically have cold feet when it comes to acting.
But now the clock is ticking for things to get done before the end of session. Lawmakers are expected to work right up until midnight next Monday on the final day of session. And until then, we'll continue to demand answers from those lawmakers to find out what they're doing to craft policies to curb crime in communities all across the state. In the newsroom, Mackenzie Frost, Fox 45 News.
Breaking right now, a Baltimore County police officer pleads guilty to accepting bribes for firearms training certifications. William Johnson admitted to accepting close to $17,000 to falsely certify that applicants for Maryland handgun qualifying licenses and wear and carry permits had completed training. According to the plea in federal court, Johnson took kickbacks and bribes from May of 2019 through September of 2021. Johnson faces a maximum of 20 years in federal prison. He'll also have to pay back those bribes. Sentencing will be July 13th. Mary?
Guy, thank you. Next at 6, we continue to follow breaking news. Former President Trump's arrival in New York. See the first images of him at Trump Tower and how he greeted onlookers. Surveying the damage of what will go down as a tornado for the record books on the eastern shore, one of the strongest twisters on record in the mid-Atlantic.
And around here, in the wake of some of that severe weather, look at that cold temperature we had for Sunday's high temperature, only 57. Today, though, we're back at it, 71 for a high. That was recorded at BWI, 14 degrees up, and it becomes even warmer next couple of days. I'll let you know when we could hit 80, my Weather Authority forecast.
Former President Trump has arrived in New York City ahead of facing charges in Manhattan. Take a look at the first pictures of the former president arriving at Trump Tower a couple of hours ago. He gave a wave to the crowd of onlookers amid of heavy security presence at Trump Tower. Now, the former president's arrival is also drawing members of the media from across the globe. The expectation is the charges he could face are related to alleged hush money payments to keep an affair with adult film star Stormy Daniels secret. However, the actual charges are sealed. Now, we could learn those tomorrow. After surrendering, the former president is expected to be released. We are expecting a statement tomorrow from Mar-a-Lago back in Florida, which we will monitor, of course. Mary?
And Kai, a closer look at the case shows former President Trump could face dozens of charges. And while he's insisted the indictment is a politically motivated attack, many Democrats and the former Manhattan district attorney say it's necessary to investigate a potential crime. Christine Frizzau has the latest.
From his supporters in Florida, a sympathetic send-off.
We just want to keep his morale up. He's a strong man, strongest man I've known, and he's taking a lot of heat.
Former President Donald Trump departing his Mar-a-Lago home en route to New York City, his Secret Service detail in tow.
He will be booked, so he'll be fingerprinted. He'll get a NICID number, which is the New York State tracker that shows you've been arrested and charged with a felony.
The details of that felony, along with what could be dozens of other charges, still shrouded in secrecy. A sealed indictment on which even Trump's legal team can only speculate.
We will very loudly and proudly say not guilty.
Despite the uncertainty, many Republicans assert the charges and the case itself are politically motivated.
No one should be above the law, but no one should be a target of the law. This is less about the crime and more about the target.
Ahead of his departure, Trump himself firing off his take on social media that it will be, quote, impossible to get a fair trial, a Trump-hating judge. It's a notion disputed by his own attorney, an approach some warn could add to his legal troubles.
I would be mindful of not committing some other criminal offense like obstruction of governmental administration, which is interfering with or by threat or otherwise the operation of government.
Most expecting far more political theater for now, with new predictions about what may come next.
If he's convicted of a crime, I think most Americans actually don't want a convicted felon to be their president.
And yet, as others predicted, the case has added fuel to Donald Trump's argument that he's the victim here. A recent Yahoo News YouGov poll 2 weeks ago had him leading Florida Governor Ron DeSantis by 8 points in the GOP primary. After the indictment, those numbers surged to 26 points. I'm Christine Frizzau, reporting for the National Desk, America's News Now.
And here's our look at today's top trending stories. Number one, Maryland is joining a growing lawsuit to try and stop the $3.8 billion JetBlue Spirit Airlines merger. Maryland, along with California, New Jersey, and North Carolina, working with the Attorney General Merrick Garland's antitrust suit, which claims the merger would reduce competition and raise prices. Locally, Spirit is one of Southwest Airlines' biggest competitors at BWI, with dozens of nonstop destinations. Number two, we are learning more about the tornado outbreak Saturday, the one in Cecil County and EF1. And this one on the eastern shore, Sussex County, Delaware, that killed one person in a building collapse and destroyed several other homes, was determined to be an EF3 tornado, one of the stronger twisters in the mid-Atlantic in recent memory.
Yeah, and you know, Mary, that a real big one. Saturday evening, touching down at 5:59 p.m. just outside of our area in Sussex County in lower Delaware. It was actually on the ground for about 20 minutes. It was an EF3, 140 miles an hour. This is more like a Midwest tornado, or you may remember over 10 years ago, that was down in La Plata. There was like an EF4 rated tornado. That's the type of damage that we saw to this. This is why we had that one, unfortunately, devastating fatality. 14.3 mile track, 700 yards wide. In other words, 7 football fields wide. And this is the strongest Delaware tornado that we've seen in that state's history since back in 1961. Also occurred in April up in the Newcastle area. That also an EF3 tornado. So behind all that, some much quieter weather. 66 now here in Baltimore with a couple of clouds. Toyota East Inner Harbor Skycam. Boy, is it nice out. Winds out of the east-southeast at 11 miles an hour. Sunshine glinting off the buildings. Dew point in the low and mid-40s. So that is dry, gorgeous air. Get a load of this. Interesting. Some temperatures that are coolest right along the bay in the low and mid 60s. Everywhere else, it's in the 60s to near 70. What's going on here? Well, that wind out of the south and southeast driving in some of that water-based air, if you will, off the Chesapeake Bay. That's influenced there by the water temperatures in the mid 40s to near 50. So that's keeping everyone downwind in the bay a little bit cooler. That's going to happen tomorrow as well. Temperatures anywhere between about 5 to 10 degrees warmer than 24 hours ago here in our immediate area. Out to the west, 15 to 25 warmer. Look at these temperatures, mid 80s to near 90, like summer. Dallas up to Oklahoma City. And this is also with our next weather maker just ahead of it, all that warmth behind it. Boy, there's snow going, there's blizzard warnings, winter storm warnings, even possibly some more severe weather. Again, being ahead of that the next several days, what we're going to see is warmer weather. Eventually, that weather maker will get here, but it probably takes till, yes, opening day Thursday when the Orioles play. So timing not great here, but until then, temperatures, boy, they're going to be off to the races. We're going to settle down into the low and mid 50s tonight. Yesterday, into this morning, it was 33. So we're going to add 20 degrees to low temperatures by tomorrow morning. Again, rising through the 50s and 60s. And how about mid 70s for tomorrow afternoon with clouds and sun? Nice looking day. 53, mostly clear tonight. Tomorrow, clouds and sun, bright, warmer day. 75. I'll let you know when we hit the 80s and how long they last. That's in my exclusive 10-day forecast in a couple of minutes.
Weather Window, presented by the National Weather Desk.
Over the weekend, a powerful wind gust ripped the roof off of a sunroom in Abingdon, Virginia, and it was caught on camera. After the gust, part of the sunroom was blown on top of the house. The ceiling fan was pointing up towards the sky. Luckily, things weren't worse, and no one was hurt in this case. It pales in comparison to the tornado devastation that happened elsewhere in the country.
For more content like this, like the National Weather Desk on Facebook.
April is Distracted Driving Awareness Month, and across the country, police will be cracking down. Tyra Majors with our Sinclair sister station in Seattle with how agencies in Washington state are trying to ensure motorists are keeping their eyes on the road.
April is Distracted Driving Awareness Month, and starting Monday, expect to see more patrol officers during your commute.
There's been around 100 law enforcement agencies across the state, including in King County, will be out conducting extra enforcement for those 1 out of 10 drivers who are driving distracted.
Sarah Wood, Target Zero Manager with the Washington Traffic Safety Commission, says the use of handheld devices is the #1 distraction across all road types, followed by using a device to the ear. It's not limited to just phones.
Our observers saw people doing their makeup. They saw people eating. When we have young drivers, oftentimes young riders in the car become that distraction, changing your music on your radio or even on your phone.
The commission says distracted driving is the leading cause of fatal crashes in our state. Their annual observation survey found the statewide distracted driving rate rose to 9.3% in 2022, an increase from 6.9% in 2021. Their data also shows 116 people were killed in crashes involving a distracted driver in 2021.
Taking your eyes off the road even for a second. You don't know if that pedestrian maybe had a, is crossing. You don't see that bicyclist. You don't see that sudden stop that's coming in front of you. It can just take a second.
The Safety Commission says this bad behavior can change, starting with talking to your young drivers.
I think it's important just to set expectations and boundaries. What is okay and what's not okay. I mean, you talk to young driver about going the speed limit, right? You talk to them about wearing the seatbelt. Putting the cell phone away should be no different.
Washington law states drivers may not hold cell phones or watch videos while they're driving, stopped in traffic, or at a stoplight. The first violation is a fine of $136. A second ticket fine increases to $234. Tyra Majors, Como News.
Well,